Story 1. Getting caught on something as you walk by, it makes me want to go home or stay in my room for the rest of the day. Story 2. If I stop at an intersection at the same time as a car on the right and the driver waves me through, they have the right of way. Just go. There's a rule for this. You aren't being polite, you're disrupting the system. I know it's irrational, but we planned for this. Story 3. People in front of me in stores block paths and walk slower than I do, sometimes very slowly. Story 4. My phone fell into the small crack between my car seat and the door, and I lost it for the entire car trip. Story 5. You are at a left turn signal that lasts only 5 seconds, and the person in front of you is looking down at their phone while the traffic light is green. It is frustrating if they notice just in time to make the light for themselves. Story 6. Peeling a boiled egg can be frustrating when the shell sticks to the egg white, taking off chunks of the egg. I really dislike this process. Story 7. People who drive 15 miles per hour slower than the posted speed limit in no passing zones but speed up to 15 miles per hour faster than the limit when the road is clear. Story 8. Auto-formatting that I don't want and can't figure out how to undo, especially involving spacing or indents, makes me very frustrated. Why am I instantly angry? Just restore it. Story 9. Try to plug the USB cable into the USB port. Oops, wrong way. Flip it over. That way is wrong too. Flip it back to how it was before. This time it works. I was right the first time. Why didn't it go in? Story 10. Opening a retail or food application and requesting to verify my identity with a text code after signing in is frustrating. I just want to order my coffee. Story 11. Those paper towel dispensers that require you to pull to dispense a thin, wet towel. Story 12. When I choose a line at the grocery store, but someone at the front has a crisis over a $1 savings and holds everyone up. Story 13. When my wife leaves the shower head selector set to just the wand, I get a blast of cold water when I turn on the shower. Some people have called this user error for not warming up the shower water first. The shower door is at one end of the stall, so I can't reach the faucet from the doorway. I have to get into the shower and face the faucet and shower head to turn it on. When the setting is left in the both position, the arc of the water spray is lower, so it doesn't hit me when I turn it on, allowing me to let it warm up before stepping into the flow. This both setting is how I always leave it, and almost always my wife does too. But rarely enough that checking the setting every time is rarely beneficial. She leaves it on the wand-only setting. It's a super minor inconvenience, but it frustrates me, and I yell in anger. Story 14. My Samsung television likes to randomly turn on a couple of minutes after I turn it off. All I have to do is press the button to turn it off again, but it makes me want to put the television in the alley and run over it a couple of times. Story 15. Trying to quickly enter and exit a convenience store for something, and getting stuck in line behind someone buying numerous lottery tickets. Story 16. When the USB only goes in on the third try, despite there being only 2 ways it fits. It's as if the universe needs to assert dominance. Story 17. When someone takes too long to get to the point, like my mother, I love her to death, but I wish she would get on with it. Story 18. Drivers wave to me at a 4-way stop. I understand the right of way and when to proceed. I do not need you to feel like you are doing me a favor. Story 19. When I get 2 or more clothes hangers tangled together, it makes me so irrationally angry that I throw them away instead of untangling them. Story 20. Safety seals. I get angrier when there are 2, and look out if there are 3. I have never had a 4, but if I did, my head would explode. If I ever win the lottery, I will hire someone just to open safety seals for me. Story 21. When a person getting on the elevator blocks me from getting off and they push into the elevator, doesn't every adult know that the rule is to let people off first? Story 22. Having to provide my address and phone number on every work or tax form, even though most of the time they already have it or do not require it. Story 23. Allowing a car to merge in front of me. I then try to close the gap only for another car to get in front. I guess cutting in general frustrates me. I have definitely experienced people forcing their way in when they could have easily zipper merged behind me. Story 24. When you are at a four-way stop and the person with the right-of-way insists that you go first out of politeness, it would be more efficient to follow the rules of the road. Story 25. When I am waiting for a car to pass by so I can pull out onto the road, and it ends up turning in where I am at the last second, without using a turn signal or any indication. Story 26. Plugging in a USB-A fob does not fit. Flipping it over still does not fit. Flipping it a second time, now it fits. Story 27. When you go to click something, an advertisement loads right on top of the button you are about to press. Or worse, if you moved quicker than it loads, by the time you make contact with the button, it jumps down slightly, and you accidentally hit something else. Story 28. Someone is chewing loudly, popping gum, clicking a pen, jingling change, and whistling. They use filler words such as like, but, and so after every thought. Story 29. Being behind someone at the cashier who seems to have a complex transaction that takes 10 minutes, without regard for anyone waiting behind them. Story 30. When someone adds water to an empty bottle of soap several times instead of just refilling it, I understand if you're out of soap and trying to make do, but if you have more, just refill it. Story 31. My husband and I share a Spotify premium account. He receives free audiobooks because he is the account manager. I love audiobooks, and I feel frustrated about this. Story 32. Those long emergency weather announcements with the loud buzzer interrupt normal television programming. Story 33. Losing my keys is something I do frequently because I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I become extremely irrationally angry knowing I could have prevented this by being more responsible in the first place. Story 34. I am waiting at the tire shop and I don't understand why. I don't want to be rude, but I find myself getting annoyed. Story 35. When YouTube knows I put on a 2-hour science video to fall asleep, it hits me with a 15-minute ad just to make sure I have to press skip. Story 36. When my belt loop gets caught on a door handle or my headphones get caught and pull out of my ears, I feel frustrated just thinking about it. Story 37. I hear babies crying the moment they start, and it always grinds my gears. If I complain to my boyfriend, roll my eyes or sigh, he is often surprised because he didn't even notice before. Story 38. Insufficient directions for delivering a package or being guided to the wrong location when making deliveries for Amazon Flex. Story 39. Receiving a clipboard at a doctor's appointment when the same information is already available in their computer system. Story 40. People stopping at the bottom of an escalator to look around or write outside bus or train doors so that no one else can pass them. If you ask them to move or accidentally push them, they get angry. It drives me absolutely insane. Story 41. Leaving the grocery cart in the parking spot instead of returning it to the cart corral or back to the sidewalk. Story 42. When people use the microwave but stop it before the timer finishes, I cannot use the quick start function because I have to clear the remaining time, which negates the usefulness of the quick start feature. Story 43. When my hair elastic snaps while I'm trying to put my hair back, it never fails to frustrate me, even though I have dozens of them. Story 44. This might only relate to nurses, but when I pass medications, I work in long-term care. The medications come in blister packs where each pill is numbered from 1 to 30. Generally, it is assumed that you start the pack at number 30 and go in order until you reach the last pill. At my job, some nurses remove the blister packs completely out of order. I hold back my frustration because, as much as it bothers me, it does not actually affect the care I provide to someone. It is just a pet peeve. Story 45. When you are heading toward the elevator and find yourself running instead of walking because someone decided to be a good Samaritan and hold the door open for you. Story 46. Waking up early to let the dogs out. I suddenly thought that my dog had stepped in something unpleasant and ran into the house. Turned out it was just a wet paw. Story 47. People are standing or walking slowly on the moving walkways at the airport, blocking passage. There are also 2 individuals behind them who won't say, "Excuse me," causing everyone to get stuck. Story 48. Having the elastic in one leg opening of my underwear is perfectly fine, but it is loose in that leg. No big deal, right? Nope. I get a wedgie every time I stand up. Story 49. I go into a panic when I drop things, and this starts a constant cycle of me juggling the object in a panic, trying to grab hold of it so it doesn't hit the ground and alert everyone around me that I'm being my usual self again. Story 50. Standing in line behind someone at Starbucks who takes 10 minutes to order a large caramel frappuccino, hot at 180 degrees, with froth but not foam, 3 pumps of one syrup and 2 pumps of another, asking about sugar substitutes, wondering if they can get it with cashew milk, requesting it to be filled to the brim, inquiring about the flavor of cake used in the cake pops, checking if they are gluten-free, and asking if they can get a dog cup to go because their dog is at home. They might want just a little foam but mostly froth. They are also curious about the flavors of pastries and whether they are baked on site. Additionally, they need a very large ice water with not too much ice and want to confirm that it is free. Lastly, they ask for an explanation of the rewards program. Baristas are saints. Story 51. People who don't use blinkers really frustrate me. It's not optional. All cars come with them. Just use them. That's all I ask. Use your blinkers, people. Story 52. Trying to insert an image in a Word document and suddenly all your text is 3 pages away, indented awkwardly, and in a different font. Story 53. Having the bottom of your foot itch. Loud yawners. Birds that chirp incessantly at dawn. Having a password, but needing to verify my identity with a passcode and still having to confirm that I'm human by identifying pictures of cars, crosswalks, mountains, and so on. Story 54. When I receive my 6-digit code for my 2-factor login confirmation and I enter it, I realize the cursor is not in the correct field, so I have to re-enter it. Story 55. I am a male, and I absolutely dislike it when I walk by someone and they say something like, "Hey buddy, why is this stranger calling me buddy?" I feel as though women might feel similarly when someone calls them terms like hun or darling. These terms, whether darling, hun, or buddy, can make me feel like the person is sexualizing or belittling them, putting them in a position beneath the speaker. I don't understand it. Story 56. When people do not treat grocery store aisles like they are driving a car, they should stay on their side, keep their cart out of the middle, and avoid stopping and blocking the way. The worst is when people push their carts and almost hit you because they are not paying attention. I also unfortunately live in a town that is not considerate, where some individuals seem to care only about themselves. Story 57. I used to live and go to college near Hollywood and Vine. I was always in a rush to get to my classes. However, since we were right on the Walk of Fame, tourists often stopped to take pictures of the stars, completely unaware that it was still a fully functioning sidewalk. This was incredibly frustrating for me. Story 58. People or groups who occupy the entire sidewalk or aisle without consideration for others around them, and if they are walking and suddenly stop in the middle of the aisle, it is incredibly frustrating. Story 59. When gasoline-powered vehicles use a diesel pump instead of available gasoline pumps, it can be frustrating. Some stations only have 2 or 4 diesel pumps. I found one station in the next town that has diesel at all its pumps, but those are few and far between. Story 60. When family members can't shoot their dirty clothes into the laundry bin, they instead leave the clothes beside it. Story 61. Slow-moving individuals who walk or push their carts in the center of the aisle in grocery stores block everyone's path. Story 62. Changing passwords every 90 days at work is a requirement. We must go through at least 6 cycles before we can reuse one. Additionally, we have to change it in Outlook, Teams, and a few other applications. Another frustration at work might be the annual reviews. First, we are asked to fill out extensive self-assessments with a deadline, which seems overly important. These reviews are not linked to raises or bonuses. If you receive a rating that exceeds expectations, which is essentially a self-assessment requiring your supervisor's agreement, you may remain in the same job as if you had simply met expectations or needed improvement. Ultimately, it serves as a checkbox exercise for human resources to justify their roles. I consider it a minor inconvenience because it occurs once a year, requires selecting a rating on various topics, and writing a brief summary of successes and areas for improvement. It is simply annoying. Story 63. When the Bluetooth in my car displays the last video I watched before getting out of bed this morning. Story 64. When it is raining, but the sun is out. Also, two-factor authentication. I understand it and appreciate it, but I find it frustrating. Story 65. Walking and having part of my clothes get caught on door handles, knobs, and other furniture happens so often. What are the chances? Story 66. I have a washer and dryer attached to each other. Every time I do a load of laundry, I keep a laundry basket under the two appliances. When I take items out to move them to the dryer, a sock ends up on the floor, outside the basket, and gets dirty. This happens every time, both when moving clothes from the washer to the dryer and when taking them out of the dryer. This situation drives me crazy. Story 67. The promoted ads in comment sections like these are designed to blend in, and I realized halfway through reading them. Story 68. Non-stop talking and repeating the same thing every 2 minutes can be frustrating. My mother is infamous for this behavior. She recognizes it, yet it still irritates me. While I understand that people need someone to converse with, after half an hour of continuous repetition, I wish for some silence. Story 69. Headphones getting caught and ripped out of my ears was a major factor in buying wireless ones, and I have never gone back. Story 70. People who walk slowly down the middle of the parking lot to reach the store do not realize that cars cannot pass where they are walking. Story 71. When I park far away to avoid anyone dinging my car doors, I often find that one person, usually with a worn-out car, parks too close to mine. Story 72. My college's older campus buildings have lecture halls with rows of chairs connected to tables, allowing about 8 people to share a table. There is a student at the other end of the row who shakes his leg throughout the entire class, making the whole row feel like an earthquake. I'm constantly close to getting up and confronting this student, feeling extremely frustrated. Story 73. When most of the aisles you need to go down at the supermarket have only one person in them, they are always standing right in front of the items you need. Story 74. When someone pulls out in front of me only to turn again immediately, especially when no one is behind me, they could have just waited for me to pass. Story 75. When I encounter other shoppers who behave as if they are alone in the store, leaving their cart in the middle of the aisle, it can be frustrating. Story 76. I went out to my car but realized I forgot my wallet, so I had to go back inside after locking the door. Story 77. Leaving your house to go somewhere, you think you have everything. You lock the door and get in the car, only to realize you forgot something and need to go back into the house to get it. You lock the door again and get back in the car, ready to leave, before realizing there is yet another thing you have forgotten, and the cycle continues. Story 78. People who exit the subway in New York City and pause at the top step to orient themselves can be a hindrance. We need to keep moving. We have places to go. This is why we have a reputation for being unfriendly. Story 79. When I wait to merge into traffic and the cars are spaced so closely that it is not safe to enter. Story 80. People who arrive at a four-way stop first and wait for others, who are half a block away, to come to a complete stop before proceeding. Story 81. Slow walkers in the middle of the walkway. I don't care if you need to take your time. Do it off to the side and stop blocking my progress. Story 82. Grabbing a new zip tie only for it to break when you go to use it, or it might not have the plastic tab to ratchet. I work in manufacturing and use a lot of zip ties. In a bag of 100, at least 10 will be defective. Story 83. Listening to 2 different coworkers playing distinct music from their portable speakers and phones every day at work. Story 84. When you take a day off work to relax, it often becomes a day where everyone bothers you with minor inconveniences. Then you return to work the next day, and it's completely quiet. Story 85. People who attend games or concerts and spend the entire time talking instead of watching the event can be quite frustrating. I didn't pay $200 to listen to 2 people discussing their personal lives. Yesterday, I was at a National Hockey League playoff game. It was overtime, and 2 individuals in front of me went to the bathroom together with 3 minutes left in overtime. Who does this? Story 86. AI robot customer service. Why can't you understand my clear voice or accurate input? Then it repeatedly asks why you want to speak to a live human representative instead of transferring the call. Story 87. Clothes get stuck on the door handle when I'm in a hurry, and it always happens when I'm in a hurry. Story 88. My bag keeps falling off my shoulder when I wear a big jacket. Please stay on, we have things to do and places to go. Story 89. Dragging an extension cord, water hose, or welding lead through a space and getting it caught on furniture or objects can be hazardous. If I ever have to jump out of an airplane without a parachute, I want one of those items in my hand because I am sure it will get tangled on something during the descent. Story 90. Multi-factor authentication is frustrating. It feels unnecessary to add extra steps because of one individual's incompetence. Additionally, Microsoft's multi-factor authentication is often buggy, especially when an external IT corporation is managing your domain and synchronization issues arise. This situation is extremely exasperating. Story 91. People who get in their car to leave sit there. Meanwhile, I wait with my turn signal on, indicating that I'm waiting for them to pull out. I realize they are on their phone. Story 92. Being in a hurry when it's cold out and sweating in your thick coat, all while your bag strap keeps falling off your shoulder and your hair gets stuck in your lip gloss, makes the situation even more difficult. You can feel your sweat mustache, but you can't wipe it away because you will ruin your makeup. Then you realize that your music is on shuffle, and a song you only added to your playlist because someone thought it was amazing comes on, but it is actually unbearable. Since you can't comfortably reach your phone, you're stuck listening to that throughout your struggle. Story 93. People often misuse terms such as your and your, to and to, or there, and there. It is not difficult to learn and use the correct ones. Using the wrong terms can make you appear unintelligent. Please note that individuals with disabilities, or those whose first language is not English, are exempt from this guideline. Story 94. My kitchen cabinets are too high for me to see. I often accidentally bump my forehead against them. Story 95. When I am pushing a box on a roller conveyor at work, the plastic straps on the box get caught on something, which is extremely annoying. Story 96. Anything that would disrupt my plan made the night before is unwelcome. Those plans can only be executed with my input and are not fully dependent on others' variability. When something goes wrong outside my control, I find it annoying. If only I had more specific plans the night before, but I rarely do. Story 97. There is a gas station at the end of my street. I stop there every day on my way to work to grab a drink. There is parking right at the entrance, as well as additional parking on the other side of the building. I feel frustrated every time I have to drive around the building to find a spot. The place is always busy. Story 98. When your phone automatically connects to the low-quality Wi-Fi instead of using mobile data, everything comes to a halt. I wish it would only connect if it was going to be as fast or faster than cellular data. Story 99. Drivers who leave too much space in front of their car at a red light can hinder traffic flow. More cars could get through the light if they did not do this. Story 100. Gravity causes objects to fall to the floor, requiring me to bend over or, unfortunately, kneel down to retrieve them. Story 101. When I am having breakfast with cookies and one crumbles, falls, and splashes milk everywhere, that is not a good way to start the day. Story 102. Walking past a door handle, my purse gets hung up on it. I was a terrible outfielder, yet my purse strap gets caught almost every time. Story 103. Getting stuck at the red light because the car in front didn't move is frustrating. I know I have been guilty of this too, but that doesn't make it any less annoying. Story 104. When I'm trying to put my seatbelt on but it locks, essentially doing what it is supposed to do. That sends me into a spiral. Story 105. At our local ASDA, there are two travelators going up. You will see one person with a trolley on each, allowing people without trolleys to walk straight up the other. Story 106. I dislike standing in line. I may complain internally, but after a knee injury a few years ago, standing still is very painful for me. I find myself getting agitated because of the discomfort. Story 107. Why is every control black? The remotes and buttons on gadgets and appliances can be difficult to see. I need a magnifying flashlight for everything. Story 108. When I slow my walking speed to let a car pass coming from the opposite direction, I do so because basic physics shows they can easily get by me first. I do not want them to think they need to stop and disrupt the flow. Then they stop anyway, and I feel irritated but try to be nice and wave in appreciation of their kindness. Technically, they are following the law, but it makes me irrationally annoyed. Story 109. When my light is green but traffic is backed up, and there are cars stuck in the middle of the intersection, I can't go. If the line isn't moving, do not enter the intersection. Even if you have a green light, just wait until it's clear. It makes me very angry. Story 110. Not being able to remove a bottle cap makes me feel like I'm going to crash the top of the bottle against the counter. Story 111. Earbuds are yanked out of my ears when they get caught on something. I know I should use AirPods, but at 40, I feel like a dinosaur when it comes to them. Story 112. People are holding up the queue, deciding which flavor of vape to choose, while others are ordering cocktails with a variety of flavors, and I just want a beer. Story 113. I don't want to sign up for a store card and clip digital coupons. Just give me the discount already and preload it. Story 114. Getting charged for being late or missing a doctor's appointment, while having to wait 20 to 40 minutes for the doctor to arrive at a scheduled appointment. Story 115. Speed bumps in the suburbs. I cannot leave my street and access a main road without going over at least 2 speed bumps. Yes, they may slow down one driver in 100 who wants to speed, but in the meantime, all the rest of us are inconvenienced daily. Story 116. When the driver in front of me is constantly pressing the accelerator and then the brakes, it is frustrating not knowing if they are actually slowing down or resting their foot on the brake pedal. Story 117. People backing into parking spaces when they lack the skill to do it quickly impede the flow of traffic. Individuals who do not return their shopping carts to the designated area are also frustrating. The only acceptable excuse for this behavior is not wanting to leave children alone in the car. Otherwise, this contributes to damage on parked vehicles. Story 118. Walking by a handle or doorknob and having it tug at my pocket, wallet chain, or bag handles is quite annoying. Also, there is the issue of dropping one item, bending down to pick it up only to drop whatever else I am holding. Story 119. Typing a specific song on Instagram for stories and reels and finding out it doesn't work is frustrating. Pressing back does not return to the previously searched song. It annoys me to type pink plus white multiple times just to choose a track that works. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.